Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another edition of Sports Betting 101. What's up, guys? Sebastian Fionn here, aka the DGen Doc, and yep, Sports Betting 101. What is that, you might ask? It's an educational series focused on teaching you the basics of sports betting so you have a chance at success. Because let's be honest, whether it's Vegas or the sports books or cappers trying to scam you for money online for their picks, or yourself, the man or woman in the mirror, whether it's the emotions or trying to bet with our heart or really just kind of getting into the cold streak, we are set up to fail. And we have to master the fundamentals, master the basics in order to have any chance of success when it comes to sports betting. Because you look at the statistics, I mean, there's already so many things going against us. Even the most profitable bettors still lose about 40 to 45% of the time. And that brings us right in. So we are on episode 4 today. So this week it's episode 4. We started off with the intro. Then we went into the basics. We talked what's a money line, what's a spread bet, over, under, went into all those. And then last week we got into a little bit more of the nitty gritty with episode 3. And we talked about dealing with the loss, dealing with the emotion of a loss, because losing is going to happen in sports betting. It is one thing that nobody likes to talk about, but is also the same thing that is guaranteed to happen. If you sports bet for really any amount of time, you are going to have losses, and that is okay. That's part of the game, but you have to learn how to deal with those losses. We talked about you cannot fall into that trap of chasing money where I turned one loss into 2, into 3, into 4. But that's last episode. So I encourage you, if you have not already, to go ahead and check that out. Again, episode 1 was the intro. We talked about why is this necessary? Why is everything so against us when it comes to sports betting? Why is something like this needed? Why do we need to learn the basics, right? So this is for people who are maybe interested in getting into sports betting, people who are newer to sports betting, some beginners, or people who started sports betting, kind of jumped in, didn't really know much, just tried it out, and kind of realizing like, man, maybe I need to look at some of these things that I'm doing here. Or, maybe I'm not profitable. I'm losing money. So I want to try to figure out, maybe I got to go back to the basics. So that's exactly what we're here to do, guys. So today, episode 4, we can be focused on something a little different, but very, very important. And that is bankroll management, right? Talking about some money, talking about the Benjamins. So when we talk about bankroll management, first off, what is that? That is how you manage your money, right? So your bankroll is however much money you set aside to bet with. And that kind of brings me into my first point, right? So we're talking about money. When we're talking about sports betting, you obviously are betting with money, right? So there's a little bit of a financial piece that goes into this whole, setting your bankroll and getting sure that is set up, right? So the first thing you really have to do is you first have to set your goal and then kind of set a budget based on that, right? So when we talk about, all right, what am I talking about when I say set your goal? So you really want to find out, like, hey, am I just looking to sports bet for fun? $10, $20 here, whatever it may be. Am I really trying to make money on sports betting? Am I really trying to be profitable with it? Really, either way, the recommendation is that, especially if you're brand new to sports betting, you want to start small, right? I mean, we think about the first time we learned how to do anything, right? Let's look, for example, let's say the first time you learned how to shoot a basketball. Even Michael Jordan not making his middle school or high school team, whatever that was, right? We don't typically just start off and it's all of a sudden, hey, I'm Larry Bird, or, I'm MJ, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, and just magically, we have to take time to learn, right? This kid who probably is going to brick the hell out of this shot, right? No, I'm sure he's going to do great. But whenever we learn something new, you don't want to put extra stress on this, right? So we talked about when you're sports betting, you are spending your hard-earned money, right? Hopefully we're winning money, but you got to give yourself some buffer room. So I'd recommend start small, right? Make your unit sizes a little bit smaller, whether it's 5, 10. Obviously, everyone's in different financial positions. That's up to you. But the recommendation is you want to start small to allow yourself some leeway. Allow yourself to kind of learn the ropes a little bit without a big stress of financial, without a huge financial stress, right? Because if you're really throwing a lot of money, and again, a lot of money is going to be all relative to what you're talking about. So we'll talk about this a little bit later. When we talk about unit size, it's a lot more relative, a lot more important than actual money, because everyone's in a different situation. But that is another episode. But yeah, so you want to make sure that you're just starting small, whatever small is for you, whether it's $5, $10, $20, $100, whatever small looks like to you. so that you can give yourselves a chance for some leeway, right? Because you're not going to come in and be a savant, right? Even if you've been watching sports your whole life and you think that I'm going to pick this up so easy. Yes, tens of thousands of us think that, and that's just not the truth, right? That is exactly who these sports betting companies are trying to go after. People who come in too overly confident, let their ego and pride take over, and maybe they hit one or two bets early on. They think they're all of a sudden the second coming of Jesus, and boom, you're in a hole, right? So start small, allow yourself some opportunity to grow, to learn. And it's a lot easier that way because so you can really just kind of start enjoying it and make sure like, hey, while I'm getting these ropes and the losses sting a little bit less when you're not throwing out, massive bets and massive units over there. All right. So that's the first thing when we talk about bankroll management. Establish that goal, establish that budget, right? Start with that. Hey, I'm going to have, whether it's $100, for example, I'm going to have $100 for this month. That's my budget for the month for sports betting, especially as I'm trying things out. Like, I don't want to go below that. Obviously, if you start to be successful and win, and you can hopefully, take some profits, like we're going to talk about in a little bit, but then you can kind of monitor for there. But you want to set yourself up with a budget to make sure that you don't go too crazy, right? Because let's be honest, gambling, part of why it's become so popular is it can get addicting, right? So if you don't set up these barriers for yourself, you're just going to find yourself in a slippery slope. So you want to make sure, first things first, let's go ahead and establish those goals and let's set a budget. Again, I recommend setting those bets a little bit smaller as we're learning. Not saying you're going to be, hey, I want everyone to be successful sports betting. That's kind of the goal. I want people to have fun, most importantly, and it's entertainment, right? But you want to make sure that you're helping yourself out. Let's start small with the smaller budget there. All right. Next thing, we're going to talk about why bankroll management is so important and kind of having consistency, right? So a big principle when it comes to bankroll management is not having a crazy amount of variance, right? So variance, obviously, as this chart kind of displays, right? So your black line there, it has more variance because it has more of a larger range of outcomes, right? So it can be all the way up at the top, or it can be the very low valley, right? There's a wide range of outcomes. So that gives you your variance, right? There's a lot can happen. Medium variance is obviously that blue line. And then we want to kind of be more in the green, right? More steady, easy going. You want to have consistency, right? You're going to probably hear me say that a lot. Consistency, discipline, those are huge, huge words when we talk about bankroll management and really just being successful when it comes to sports betting. Because, as anyone who's ever done a science experiment, you have to keep a lot of the variables the same in order to figure out what's working and what's not working, right? That's consistency. That is discipline, right? So, and obviously when it comes to betting and your emotions and when, if you want to do it while you're drinking or having fun or whatever, that gets a little more difficult. So that's, a lot of what I'm going to be trying to help teach you guys. And again, just teaching you guys that I've learned through my 5+ years of sports gambling, things that I wish I would have known when I first started sports gambling is going to sound like common sense because it is, right? It is the basics. But I promise you, the people who are successful at sports betting, the people that actually are long-term successful are just really, really good at the basics. Yes, they may have their own, whether it's an algorithm, whether it's their own edge that they have, that's fine and dandy. But you first have to be set in the fundamentals to even have a chance because the odds are so stacked against us. All right, let's get back in to talking about variance and why it is so important to limit your variance, not have a craving variance. Basically, that means be consistent, right? You want to only bet maybe units. So I'll kind of explain what a unit is. Basically, a unit is like a unit of measure, right? So it's what you determine your bet amount is going to be, right? So let's just, for the sake of ease, let's say that my unit size is $10, right? So 1 unit, $10, 2 units, $20, 5 units, $50. And we're going to do some public math here, as we say in the Army, 10 units, $100, right? So that is kind of the idea of a unit. Obviously, all depends on what your financial situation is and what your goal is for sports betting, right? What your budget is, right? I encourage you, make sure that if you have a spouse, let them know about that budget, right? Just line item in the budget, right? That way you keep it transparent, you keep it clean, because the more stuff you do in the shadows, the more slippery the slope can get, right? So, when we talk about that, not having that crazy variance, it's basically like, hey, most of my bets are going to be 1 unit. Maybe I feel something really good about something. Maybe I'm going to go 2 units, or I probably would keep it between 1 to 5, and 5 being like pretty rare, right? Like, honestly, the recommendation is, one unit on most things, 2 units if you're really, really feeling confident about something. If you like really, really, really think you got an edge, I would not go above 5. I really wouldn't recommend doing that a lot. And that's one of the biggest things when we talk about, things to look out for, kind of red flags when we talk about see these cappers, especially social media guys who, again, you don't have to have any credentials to say you're a pro sports bettor, right? You could wake up tomorrow and just put that in your Twitter bio, your X bio, your Instagram, whatever, say you're a pro sports bettor. No, there's no credentialing system. There's no one's going to tell you you're not, right? So you got to be careful, because you're going to see a lot of people throwing out 10, 100 unit mega whale max bullshit, whatever. Yeah, don't. They're just trying to get clicks, basically. That's really all that is. Do not fall into that trap. Most likely they're not actually betting that much. They're just doing it for the social media. Surprise. People aren't being honest on social media. Holy shit, right? Novel concept. But anyway, back to this. So one of the reasons why is we're going to go back to a little bit earlier of an episode when we kind of laid out some of the groundworks. Episode 2, you talked about the golden rule of sports betting. So for those who haven't seen the episode, or hopefully if you've seen it, you remember, the golden rule of sports betting is that there is no such thing as a lock, right? No such thing as a lock, except for maybe whiskey. But we're talking about sports. We're talking about gambling. We're talking about two things that inherently why they're so enjoyable and why people grow to love them is because they're unpredictable, right? I got my Florida Gators on because I'm recording this Thursday night. March Madness was just on. I just watched Oakland just defeat Kentucky, right? They just took down Kentucky. Honestly, they didn't even look like an underdog, but they were a plus 750 underdog. Kentucky was a minus 1,000 favorite, right? I would have to bet $1,000 on Kentucky to win just to net $100, right? They were huge favorites. And Oakland just took them to the dog shed, right? They just put up almost 90 points on them. They won the game. They kind of were leading like the entire game. So, again, no such thing as a lock, right? Most people look at the brackets. I mean, probably 99% of people thought that Kentucky was going to win that game. Look what happens, right? All that to say, there's no such thing as a lock. So don't think that, hey, I have it in my head that Kentucky's going to win this game and just dump my entire bankroll for the month or for the year, or whatever it is. Just put all my money on that one bet. Because if you lose, which will and can happen, right? We talked about you're going to lose some of these bets. You're done. That's your whole budget for the month, the year, whatever. And that's where that slippery slope starts to come, where it starts to get into a problem, right? You got to be disciplined. You got to set up some rules for yourself to allow yourself to have boundaries, right? Sports have rules for that reason. So we can keep it entertaining. We can keep it moving, right? We can't just be in anarchy out here. That's where it gets ugly. And that's the biggest thing I'm trying to prevent, right? Not have to learn those lessons the hard way, because that just means you're losing money, and nobody likes to lose money, right? You work way too damn hard to be losing your money on stupid shit. So, all right, let's go ahead, and we talked about the variance there. Okay, so just to recap the variance, right? We're talking about we want to be green, right? Green for money. We try to keep that super simple, right? All that's saying is that, hey, one unit, going to keep it pretty consistent, right? Because maybe a play that you weren't so confident on actually hits, and the one you were super confident on doesn't hit. Happens all the time, right? Because we think that, again, no such thing as a lock. It'd be great if we could kind of know everything that's going to happen, but nobody's got the almanac here, and that's why this is entertaining, right? So be consistent. Stick to your whatever unit size you want to do. Stick to those your base should be a lot of one unit. That's also why we talked about straights are better than parlays, so we're not just throwing things out there, right? We're trying to take our wins. Now, one thing you've probably heard when it comes to sports betting is hot and cold streaks, right? He's running hot. I'm on a heater, baby. I've hit 10 bets in a row. I've hit 8 bets in a row, whatever it may be. I'm on a heater. Yeah, Sometimes that happens, right? We talked about big reasons why chasing losses is a kind of a bad thing that can be a slippery slope, is because we sometimes get into the mentality of like, damn, I just lost a bet last minute, or damn, I just lost on a buzzer beater, or, how did Kentucky lose that game? There's no way. I gotta get better luck on the next time, right? Again, your next bet has no influence on your last bet. They are independent events of each other. As much as we're going to think like, dang, I need to get that money back. Like that's my money that I lost. I need to get it back. And I'm just going to go harder. I'm going to double my units the next time. One of the worst things you can do, right? So what we want to do is, when we're running hot, when we're on a nice hot streak, right? Again, that's not the time to go ahead and triple your units and double your units. That's the time for you to take some profits, right? Start to enjoy some of the fruits of the labor, right? Why are we doing this, right? Whether it's for fun or whether it's to like actually try to make a little bit more money, winning money is fun, right? I think that's kind of like a lot of us doing. That's why sports betting is one of my favorite hobbies, right? I'm not one to go shop and spend a lot of money. I like that the hobby that I like to do, at least one of them, gives me the potential to actually earn some more money, right? That's kind of a cool idea, right? It's like work another job, but I just get to watch sports. So, one of these things, basically what I'm trying to say is, you will run into times when you're going to get into a hot streak, right? You're going to be doing extraordinarily well, right? Whether it's 8 bets in a row, 10 bets in a row, shit, I hope it's 100 bets in a row, right? You just got to understand that that's not going to last forever, right? All good things have to come to an end. So you want to make sure you are taking profits at a certain point, right? So again, a lot of this is kind of going to give you like general principles and left and right limits, and it's up to you to kind of set these principles. It's going to depend on what your goal is, right? Are you just purely trying to have fun? Do you really want to try to make money off of this? What's the end goal here, right? And it's going to depend on your budget. Like, how much room in your budget do you have to play with, right? So if it's a situation where you definitely want to guarantee that you're getting some of these profits, right? Because just as easy or as quickly as that hot streak can come, just like that, you can hit a cold streak, right? Obviously, if a hot streak means I'm hitting all my bets, a cold streak means I can't hit a damn thing, right? I can't hit the side of the barn. I can't, if it was a pool, I couldn't get it in, or what? I can't get a drop of water in the ocean, or whatever they say, right? You're just cold. You can't hit a bet. Both of those times are going to happen. So you want to make sure, hey, save a little bit for that rainy day, because that cold streak, hey, I don't wish a cold streak on my worst enemy, because it sucks. You're like, damn, I can't hit a damn thing, right? But that's going to happen from time to time. That's just the law of averages. That's just kind of how it plays out, right? Especially if you bet for long enough and you make enough bets, that happens. We've all been through hot haters, feel like we're on a high, the time of our lives. But we have to remember, as much as we feel like Superman and that's never going to go down, reality is going to hit, right? We all can't fly. Well, at least, yeah, I don't think they made that super soldier yet, right? So we have to make sure that we take profits. Basically, hey, what I like to do is, if I've hit, sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 5, depending on the kind of sport I'm betting, right? And kind of how good it's running. But so, let's say if I've hit 5 bets in a row, I will take out at least, half the profits, right? So let's break that down really quickly, right? So let's say I bet 5 bets all at 1 unit a piece. So let's just, for the sake of ease, say that it's even money. It's at plus 100. So for every 1 unit I bet, I'm winning a unit. I understand minus 110 is typically what you'll see, but just for the sake of this, remember, we're in the basics here. We're in the baby steps. Come on, don't get ahead of me. So we're going to do 5 1-unit bets. They're each going to give me back a unit. So I took my 5 units, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and I won each one. So now I have 10 units, right? So now let's say, all right, I'm sitting there with 10 units. I'm running pretty hot. Let's take away, let's deposit 2 to 3 units, right? Let's make sure that if we start to go cold, I didn't take those 5 bets, all that work, all that good success, and just throw it down the drain, right? We want to make sure we take some profits. So that's all that is. Making sure you take some profits on a hot streak. And then on a cold streak, you want to make sure that you're sticking to your budget, right? Don't get into that mindset of, oh, since I've lost these last 3, I have to hit the next one. So let me put everything on it, right? That's kind of where that budget is very important, right? Whether you want to have a weekly budget, whether you want to have a daily budget, whether you want to have a monthly budget, right? That kind of all depends on how good you are about not getting into digging yourself into a deeper hole, right? Because that's what typically happens. Let's say like something like March Madness, right? Just a great example. It's happening right now, which I'm so excited for my Florida Gators. I think they're going to come on good. They're going to put it on Colorado, but enough about that. Let's say that you're betting. Obviously, their games all day, starting at 11. 12 tip off all the way up to 10 at night, right? Let's say that you got a daily budget of $50, or let's say you got let's say you got a daily budget of $50 for March Madness, right? So let's say you put a unit on each of the 5 first games, and boom, you're on a cold streak, right? And all those be done. All those are gone. So now you've went from 5 units to 0 units, and that's hit your daily budget. You need to make sure that you have the discipline and the systems in place to be done for the day. And I know it sucks, but losing money sucks, right? You shouldn't really reward yourself after you just lost 5 bets in a row. You should at least take a day to reset, right? Be like, damn, what am I doing wrong? Or maybe hey, my system, what I have found to work for me, whether, again, you want to do some algorithm stuff that's way smarter than me and you will not find me talking about, again, basics guy, or whether your system, was a little bit off, or maybe it was just one of those days, right? Maybe you're just on a cold streak. Maybe those things didn't bounce your way. The ball didn't bounce your way, right? Be able to reset, be able to realize that, hey, I'm in a cold streak. I know it won't last forever, but I can't just try to double up my money out of it, right? I can't just try to double my units and keep chasing my losses and chasing my losses, because then we're getting in that rabbit hole, right? That very slippery slope of chasing your losses. You want to make sure that you have a system in place where, hey, if I'm on a cold streak, let me take maybe a day to reset, right? Or, hey, I can't go over this budget, so I at least got to wait till tomorrow, and then maybe I deposit more money and get back in. But it's okay to take a day. It's okay to take a week, right? Because you really can start getting in your head. Like I talked about, 3 biggest enemies in sports betting: sports books, cappers, especially the scammers, and yourself, right? And why? I don't know why I did it like that, and yourself. So the reason why yourself, the man or woman in the mirror, is such a big issue is because emotions. You get emotional while you bet, right? Some people do, maybe not everybody, but sports, gambling, money, they all bring out emotion in us. So we have to be self-aware and learn how to control it, or at least set up boundaries for ourselves to kind of help us do this, right? So again, when we're running hot, we want to make sure we take profits off the top, right? We want to make sure that, hey, reward myself, right? I want to save this for a rainy day, or maybe I want to reward myself and go get myself something nice for the money I made, or go get my wife or my husband something nice from the money I made. Whatever you want to do, but make sure you pay yourself, right? Take those profits reward yourself from that hot streak. And on the cold streaks, they're going to happen. They suck. I know. And we just want to say F the budget and put all the money in and just see where the chips lie, right? No, because as we take those losses, we start to become like, it takes a hit at the ego. It takes a hit at the emotions, right? And you start making less logical decisions, right? You start thinking like, hey, I have to hit the next one, like things are going to balance out. Like, let me just go ahead and put another 5 units on this next bet. I think, no. Typically, most people do not make smart decisions when they're on a cold streak, right? It is not a time to press and just double our units and try to dig out of the hole all in one bet, right? Just like they say, hey, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You're down by 20 in a game. How do you come back, right? Dayton just came back from down 17. There's no 18-point shot. Bite away, chip away, chip away, chip away, right? Same premise. You cannot come back from a cold streak. Don't think you're going to get it all back in one bet. That is just not sustainable. You're more than likely to just put yourself in a deeper hole. All right. I think I beat that one, beat that point to death a little bit. So I'm just going to do a really quick recap here, and then I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to wrap up. So bankroll management, right? Again, in simple terms, all that is how do I manage the money I've allocated for betting? First things first, Got to establish a goal. Based on that goal, make a budget. I recommend starting with a small budget. Allow yourself time to learn the ropes a little bit and not have the financial stress of these big bets, right? Just start small, right? Enjoy the process. Enjoy. It's supposed to be fun. It's entertainment, right? I know personally I like sports gambling because I like to try to make money, but that's not my main goal, right? Maybe it is for you, but I will tell you, winning money is a lot more fun than losing money. Think that's a pretty easy concept, right? And exactly the whole point of this is trying to set yourself up for success. Because if you don't do these things, you have no shot. It's already very, very difficult for you to, we see Vegas, right? Vegas wasn't built through charity. It was built off the backs of people like you and me who did not follow these principles and just, thought that they were going to be better than everybody else and they were just going to chase their losses and they were going to not manage anything. They aren't going to be accountable. They're not going to have a bankroll or a budget. They're just going to throw $100 here and do whatever I want. And then suddenly they find themselves in a deep hole, right? So you want to make sure that you are being consistent with your bets, right? Have that consistency. Don't have that crazy amount of variance, 1 unit, maybe 2 units. I wouldn't go higher than 5. And I would really only do 5 units if I don't recommend it. If you really, really feel confident on something, sure, but don't get into that trap of just, seeing people put 10 unit maxes. I bet you they're not, man. I bet you they're not. And if they are, they're probably not profitable long term. All right. And then, hot cold streaks, right? Take profits off the top from the hot streak, cold streak. Make sure you take some time to reset, right? Don't just keep trying to press. That doesn't always work. Typically, it doesn't work. All right. The last thing that really kind of ties this all together, and the biggest thing is this is all about discipline, right? So discipline and this super cheesy quote, the bridge between goals and accomplishment. But I mean, it's true. And it's it's so funny because it's you could say that about so many things in life, and sports betting one of them. It's I always find it funny because, sports betting is not different from a lot of other things that you do in your life, right? But people don't like to talk about it because it's not sexy and it's not something that they think is going to get them views. But let me just, put the most ridiculous thing and appeal to somebody who, has that kind of addictive personality and is kind of taking advantage of them, right? So obviously, if you can't tell by me making this series or anything I've said so far, that's obviously something I really despise and do not like, right? So discipline is the one thing that really separates a good bettor and a smart sports bettor from an amateur and from someone who is more than likely going to lose, almost guaranteed going to lose. If you don't have discipline and you're just kind of willy-nilly doing everything you want, whatever feels good, right? If we think about it, what if we just went off of every impulse we ever had? We would be, that's like a caveman, right? We'd be nomads. That's not really how we can learn. That's not how society is, especially now, right? You got to think before you say anything. I'm not saying you have to be that analytical and logical, but you want to at least have systems in place. You want to make sure you have a game plan for success, right? Have this roadmap. And that is the entire point of this whole series, is trying to set you up with a game plan and success. But just because you have it set up doesn't mean you follow it. That is where discipline comes in, right? We can lead a horse to water, but we can't make him drink it. This is what we're going to try to help you do. We're going to try to help you establish your pond, your pool of knowledge when it comes to sports betting. It is up to you, my friends, to make sure that you're drinking it. You're drinking that Kool-Aid every day. You're making sure you're disciplined, right? And it's not always going to be easy. It's hard, right? There's a reason why most people aren't profitable sports bettors, and most people lose at sports betting. And I think this is the biggest thing. I think it's discipline. I think it boils down to, are you following the principles you set for your process? Are you following the principles you should be doing, right? The things we're talking about. Are you dealing with your emotions? Are you making sure you understand the basics? First and foremost, do I understand what I'm even betting on, right? Do I know the ins and out of it? And can I make sure that I have my bankroll management, right? I'm managing the money. I'm not just kind of willy-nilly throwing things out there, right? I have my units in place, and I'm betting in a strategic way, a way that makes sense, and a way that isn't kind of just whatever I'm feeling that day, right? Because that is just a recipe for disaster. All right, guys. Again, the biggest things when it comes to bankroll, you got to make sure you have that budget, right? You set yourself some type of budget to be able to say, whether it's a daily, weekly, monthly, some type of limit, so you're not just going crazy with the finances there. Because again, hey, I wish I wish nothing more than for you to hit every single bet that you make, but I know that is just impossible, right? The best sports bet in the world doesn't happen. They lose at like 40% chances, like you're unheard of good. And that's losing 40% of the time. Most people when they're profitable, it's like more like 45%, right? Like you gotta understand that, hey, losing is gonna happen, right? So you want to make sure you set that budget. Other things, remember the golden rule, right? Nothing in sports betting is a lock. That's why we want to make sure that we're not having this crazy variance from bet to bet. We want to make sure we kind of have that established, whatever your one unit is, do most of your bets, straight bets, 1 units. And then when we're riding hot, take those profits. And when we're riding cold, take that time to reset, right? Stick to the budget, take that time, whether it's a day or whether it's a week, whatever it want to be, right? Check in with yourself. What makes you feel good? Because that's the point, man. Sports betting is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertainment. It's an opportunity to potentially earn some more money, but it can turn bad really quickly. You got to set yourself up with some of these boundaries, limitations. And I know it's not sexy, and I know it's not something you want to think about. And I know you just want to hit a 10,001 parlay and retire and be done, right? Yeah, I want to do that too. But that's the dream they're trying to sell you. And if you just keep trying to go after those things, I can guarantee you that you're not going to be successful. So I appreciate you guys listening to me. Again, looks like the whiskey is almost done. So it's time for me to stop rambling on. As always, guys, please, I appreciate any likes, subscribes, IDP Plus. We're doing, whether IDP, so for those that don't know, defensive fantasy football, we're talking all things football. We're talking all things betting. If there's something that you want to hear about, again, I have some more topics. We're going to be talking about some accountability things, making sure we're tracking our bets. We're going to talk about, unit size, things to look out for cappers, kind of red flags. We got a couple more topics that I've already kind of established, think that would be good here. But if you have something that you want to learn more about, please let me know in the comments. Just, that's kind of one of the whole points is I want to try to help people, again, who are interested in sports betting, whether they're brand new or maybe they've done it for a while, but done it unsuccessfully, right? Maybe haven't found themselves actually making profits. I want to try to establish those fundamentals. Have to hammer the fundamentals. In order to be a master at anything, you have to master the basics, right? So until next time, guys, Doc, out of here.